Point 1. Obama wasn't your typical politician. Barack Obama's journey to the presidency was anything but ordinary. He didn't come from a political dynasty or have a long history in public service. His path was unique, and that's what makes it so fascinating. His mom was a bit of a rule breaker. She was passionate about civil rights and often talked about the protests and movements happening around them. This wasn't about politics for her, though. She was more interested in fairness and equality than in political power games. Obama's early years were a bit of a global whirlwind. He was born in Hawaii, but spent a good chunk of his childhood in Indonesia. His mom's dislike for corruption left a lasting impression on him. But even with all this, politics wasn't on his radar. His family believed in him, but they didn't see him as a future politician. Things started to change when he moved back to Hawaii to live with his grandparents. He stumbled upon a book sale and discovered a love for reading. The books he read opened his eyes to the world and sparked an interest in political and social issues. His time at Columbia University was a game changer. He dove headfirst into his studies, focusing on the ideals he believed America stood for: equality and fairness for everyone. This commitment led him to Harvard Law School, where he deepened his understanding of law and justice. So, Obama's journey to the White House wasn't your typical story. He didn't come from a political family, and he didn't have an early interest in politics. His political awakening was a slow burn, shaped by his mom's values, his diverse upbringing, his love for reading, and his academic journey. This unique background gave him a fresh perspective when he finally stepped into the political ring, and it all led to his election as President of the United States. Point 2. Obama and Michelle, a love story. In the heart of Chicago, a young summer associate named Barack Obama found himself under the guidance of a strong, independent woman named Michelle Robinson. This wasn't just any professional relationship, it was the beginning of a deep bond, a meeting of soul mates, if you will. Michelle was a force to be reckoned with, a woman who stood her ground and didn't let others sway her easily. This was something that Barack admired greatly. He was drawn to her strength, her resilience, and her unwavering stance during disagreements. When Barack shared his dreams and plans with Michelle, she didn't react with shock or disbelief. Instead, she stood by him, encouraging him to chase his ambitions. One of these ambitions was to return to Chicago and work in law and community service, focusing on civil rights. Michelle was his rock, supporting him in this decision, showing her faith in his abilities and his cause. In 1992, they tied the knot, marking the start of their journey as life partners. At this point, Barack wasn't thinking about a career in politics. He was more focused on making a difference in people's lives through his work in civil rights. But as time passed, his interest in politics began to grow, especially as he saw the Democratic Party gaining momentum. When Michelle became pregnant with their first child in 1997, Barack thought about reducing his workload to spend more time at home. He even considered writing. But his dreams of making a significant impact didn't fade. His growing interest in politics and the success of the Democratic Party made him see a new opportunity to effect meaningful change. It was then that he decided to run for the U.S. Senate. In essence, the story of Barack and Michelle Obama is more than just a love story. It's a tale of shared journeys, mutual support, and a shared commitment to making a difference in the world. Their relationship is not just about love, but also about partnership, respect, and shared values. Point 3. Obama's big wins against all odds. Turning the impossible into reality, that's the heart of Barack Obama's memoir. It's not just about his personal journey, from a young man of mixed race to becoming the first African American president of the United States. It's also about his vision for America and the world. In his memoir, Obama takes us back to his early political days and his decision to run for the highest office in the land. He wasn't the typical candidate. He was young, relatively new to politics, and black, traits not usually linked with the American presidency. But he had faith in the power of change and hope. He believed he could turn the impossible into reality. His campaign kicked off in Springfield, Illinois, the same place where Abraham Lincoln started his presidential run. Despite the biting cold, around 15,000 people showed up to hear him. This was the first sign that his message was hitting home. His campaign centered on key issues like healthcare reform, climate change, and unity. He wanted to unite people, no matter their race, religion, or political beliefs. During the Democratic primaries, he faced tough competition from Hillary Clinton. He admits he made mistakes during the campaign, but he learned from them and kept pushing. His message of hope and change struck a chord with many Americans, and he eventually clinched the Democratic nomination. In the general election, he was up against Republican candidate John McCain. Once again, he was tasked with turning the impossible into reality. He wasn't just campaigning on his policy ideas, but also challenging deep-seated prejudices and stereotypes about race and experience. He picked Joe Biden as his running mate, a seasoned politician who brought balance to his ticket. Despite the hurdles, Obama won the election and became the 44th President of the United States. His victory was proof of his belief in turning the impossible into reality. It was a win for hope and change, and a win for everyone who believed in a more inclusive and fair America. In his memoir, Obama shares his journey of turning the impossible into reality. It's a tale of hope, resilience, and the power of belief. It's a tale that inspires us to believe in the possibility of change and the power of our dreams. Point 4. Obama's tough start in the White House. Stepping into the Oval Office, Obama's trial by fire is a phrase that captures the initial hurdles Barack Obama faced when he took on the presidency. The term, trial by fire, is often used to describe a tough situation that a person or group is thrust into right at the start of their journey. In the case of Obama's presidency, this phrase points to the economic crisis he had to tackle as soon as he took the reins. When Obama was sworn in as the 44th President of the United States in January 2009, the country was in the grip of the Great Recession. The economy was spiraling downwards, with joblessness skyrocketing and financial markets on the verge of collapse. Banks were going under, businesses were closing down, and millions of Americans were losing their homes. This was the fire Obama had to face as soon as he stepped into the Oval Office. Obama's immediate mission was to steady the economy and stop it from plunging into a full-blown depression. He did this by quickly passing the Recovery Act, a huge economic stimulus package designed to create jobs and boost investment and consumer spending. This was a bold and decisive move that showed Obama's determination to act swiftly and decisively in a crisis. At the same time, Obama also had to put together his team and mend the rifts that had appeared during the heated 2008 presidential election. One of his first appointments was Hillary Clinton, his former competitor for the Democratic nomination, as Secretary of State. This was a smart move that not only showed Obama's commitment to unity and bipartisanship, but also brought a seasoned and respected figure into his team. While Obama was grappling with these huge challenges, his family was also getting used to life in the White House. His wife, Michelle, and their two daughters, Malia and Sasha, had to deal with the unique pressures and responsibilities that come with being the first family. Michelle, in particular, used her role as First Lady to launch initiatives aimed at fighting childhood obesity and supporting military families. In the midst of all this, Obama also had to find a way to juggle his demanding job with his duties as a husband and father. Living in the same place where he worked, he had to make time for his family amidst the constant demands of the presidency. In short, stepping into the Oval Office, Obama's trial by fire refers to the many challenges that Obama had to face right at the start of his presidency. From handling an economic crisis to putting together his team, from getting used to life in the White House to maintaining a work-life balance, Obama's early days in office were indeed a trial by fire. Point 5. Obama's crash course in global politics. In A Promised Land, Barack Obama pulls back the curtain on the world of international summits. These high-profile meetings between world leaders might seem like glitzy affairs, with their red carpets and camera flashes. But Obama lets us in on a secret: once you're past the glitz, it's all about hard work, long hours, and a whole lot of paperwork. When Obama first stepped into this world, he was a newcomer. His first summit was in London, and he knew all eyes were on him as the fresh-faced President of the United States. But instead of trying to take center stage, he decided to play the part of the newbie. He listened more than he spoke, took in what the other leaders had to say, and showed a bit of humility. This wasn't just him being polite. It was a calculated move. By showing respect for the other leaders and their views, he was hoping to build some goodwill. This, he figured, would make it easier for him to get his economic plans and measures across in the future. As he got more comfortable in these summits, Obama learned to juggle multiple tasks. He'd bring extra paperwork to keep himself busy during the less interesting parts of the summit. He also got good at having side conversations with other leaders when someone else was hogging the spotlight. One of the most important skills Obama picked up was the ability to size up other leaders. During his first summit, he spent time watching and evaluating the other leaders. He'd use this information to shape his approach in future discussions and negotiations. For instance, if he knew a leader was really passionate about a certain issue, he'd frame his argument in a way that would appeal to that leader's interests. In a nutshell, Obama's time at international summits taught him a lot about diplomacy, negotiation, and leadership. He learned how to strike a balance between listening and speaking, how to multitask effectively, and how to use his understanding of other leaders to his advantage. These insights give us a fascinating look into the world of international politics and the skills needed to navigate it successfully. Point 6. Obama's showdown with Somali pirates. In A Promised Land, Barack Obama recounts a tense episode from his presidency, the time he had to deal with Somali pirates. Picture this: Obama's on Air Force One, heading back to Washington, when he gets word that an American cargo ship's been hijacked by pirates. Now, piracy isn't exactly a rare occurrence in the waters around Somalia and Africa, but having an American captain involved, that's a whole new ball game. For 4 nail-biting days, Obama and his national security team kept a close eye on the situation, brainstorming the best way to handle it. The crew on the hijacked ship were quick on their feet, tricking the pirates into thinking the ship was a lost cause. The pirates, thinking they'd drawn the short straw, decided to ditch the ship. But as the American captain tried to make a break for it, he was nabbed again by the pirates. With the situation spiraling, Obama knew he had to make a tough call. He gave the green light to Navy SEAL snipers to take out the pirates if they thought the captain's life was hanging by a thread. When the pirates stepped out into the open, gun to the captain's head, the snipers didn't hesitate. The captain was saved, and the pirates were taken down. The media was quick to chalk this up as a win for Obama, his first big crisis handled with aplomb. But Obama's take on the whole thing was a bit more complex. He found himself thinking about what might have driven these young pirates to such desperate measures. Could they have been products of their environment, pushed into a life of crime? He saw a parallel between these pirates and young men in the Middle East who are radicalized and seduced by promises of religious glory. He recognized that while it was necessary to act decisively in these situations, it wasn't something to celebrate. He was acutely aware of the human cost involved in these incidents. This episode, as told by Obama, gives us a peek into the tough calls and moral dilemmas he faced during his presidency. It also shows his ability to see things from different angles and his empathy, even when he had to make hard decisions. Point 7. Obamacare, a success story. In A Promised Land, Barack Obama takes us on a journey through his presidency, highlighting key moments and achievements. One of the most significant of these is the passing of the Affordable Care Act, often known as Obamacare. To fully appreciate this achievement, we need to take a step back and look at the history of healthcare in America. The idea of reforming healthcare isn't new. It's been a hot topic since the days of Theodore Roosevelt. Over time, the cost of healthcare in the U.S. had shot through the roof, making it a luxury many couldn't afford. When Obama stepped into the Oval Office, a shocking 43 million Americans were living without health insurance. It was clear something had to change. Obama's drive to reform healthcare wasn't just political, it was personal. He'd seen his own family members grow old and struggle with health problems. His mother's death was a particularly heart-wrenching moment that highlighted the importance of accessible healthcare. These experiences made him deeply aware of the struggles many Americans faced when it came to their health. For Obama, healthcare reform wasn't just about politics, it was about people. Healthcare reform was a key promise in Obama's campaign, along with boosting the economy, tackling climate change, and strengthening national security. His dedication to these issues was recognized on a global scale when he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Though taken aback by the honor, Obama chose to dedicate his award to other world leaders working towards positive change. In 2010, the Affordable Care Act was passed, marking a major milestone in Obama's presidency. The act aimed to make healthcare more accessible and affordable for all Americans, especially those who had previously been uninsured. It introduced several reforms, like stopping insurance companies from denying coverage due to pre-existing conditions and allowing young adults to stay on their parents' insurance plans until they turn 26. In A Promised Land, Obama views the Affordable Care Act as a success. Despite facing strong opposition and numerous challenges, the act has given millions of Americans access to healthcare. It's a big step towards Obama's vision of a fairer, more just society. Point 8. Trump's crazy claims about Obama. In A Promised Land, there's a part where Barack Obama talks about the wild tales spun by Donald Trump, mostly about where Obama was born. To get what's going on, you need to know what a conspiracy theory is. It's when people think some secret, powerful group is behind something that's happened, but no one can explain. In this case, the mystery was Obama's birthplace, and the supposed secret group was Obama's own team, accused of hiding the real story. At the time, Donald Trump was a big-shot businessman and TV star, and he was the main one spreading these stories. He said Obama wasn't born in the US, but in Kenya, which would mean he couldn't be the US president. This idea, often called birtherism, got a lot of airtime, with Trump popping up on channels like Fox News to talk about it. At first, Obama didn't give these claims much thought. He'd already shown his birth certificate once, which clearly said he was born in Hawaii. But as Trump's stories got more attention and started causing problems, Obama decided he had to respond. To put a stop to all the fuss, Obama asked for his long-form birth certificate, a more detailed version of a birth certificate, to be shown to everyone. This paper left no doubt that he was born in Hawaii. After that, Obama held a press conference to put the issue to bed once and for all. He said he was glad the whole thing was over and reminded his team that they were above such groundless accusations. In a nutshell, this part of the book shows how far Obama had to go to prove a conspiracy theory that was completely unfounded. It's a commentary on how powerful false information can be and how important it is to tell the truth in public discussions. Point 9. The end of bin Laden under Obama's watch. The hunt for Osama bin Laden, the mastermind behind the 9/11 attacks, was a decade-long game of cat and mouse. It was a saga that had frustrated the United States for years, with bin Laden always seeming to slip through their fingers. In his memoir, Barack Obama gives us a front-row seat to the operation that finally brought bin Laden to justice. Bin Laden had been a constant source of worry for the U.S. since the 9/11 attacks. Despite countless attempts to find and capture him, he had always managed to stay one step ahead. Obama shares how he was briefed by the CIA about a potential lead. They had reason to believe bin Laden was hiding out in a compound in Pakistan. But the intelligence wasn't a sure thing. They estimated the chances of bin Laden being there at a little better than a coin toss. Obama was faced with a tough call. He could give the go-ahead for a raid on the compound, potentially bringing bin Laden to justice and offering some closure to the American families who had lost loved ones on September 11th. But if the intelligence was off, the operation could end in a catastrophic failure. The planning for the operation was done under a veil of secrecy, without the Pakistani government being in the loop. Despite their help in other anti-terrorism efforts, the U.S. didn't want to risk the operation being compromised and bin Laden slipping away again. After weighing up the options, Obama gave the operation the thumbs up. The Navy SEALs were tasked with carrying out the operation. Obama and his team, including then-Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, watched the operation unfold in real time from the Situation Room in the White House. They had planned for two possible outcomes. If bin Laden was killed, he would be given a sea burial in line with Islamic traditions. If he was captured, he would be brought back to the U.S. As the Navy SEALs swooped down on the compound in Black Hawk helicopters, the tension in the Situation Room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Time seemed to stand still as they waited for confirmation of bin Laden's identity. Then, the radio buzzed with the news they had been waiting for: bin Laden had been killed in the raid. The news of bin Laden's death brought a wave of relief to the families of his victims and was met with worldwide media coverage. This operation is often seen as one of the defining moments of Obama's presidency. Point 10. Conclusion. The journey to leadership is not a straight path, but a winding road filled with trials, triumphs, and lessons. It requires resilience, determination, and a deep belief in the power of hope. The essence of democracy is not in the grandeur of the office, but in the people who are served. It is about listening to their stories, understanding their struggles, and working tirelessly to create policies that uplift them. Leadership is also about making tough decisions, often with incomplete information and under intense scrutiny. It requires a balance of pragmatism and idealism, and the courage to make unpopular decisions for the greater good. It's about taking responsibility, not just for successes, but also for failures and learning from them. The pursuit of a more equitable and just society is a continuous journey that requires collective effort. It's about fostering unity amidst diversity, and finding common ground in shared values and aspirations. It's about nurturing the next generation of leaders and empowering them to carry the torch forward. In the end, the promised land is not a destination, but a journey. It's about striving for progress, one step at a time, and never losing sight of the ideals that guide us. It's about believing in the power of change, and the potential within each of us to make a difference.